5 million people visit the Grand Canyon every single year, and almost none of them ever see what I'm about to show you. These are 5 hidden Grand Canyon secrets for 2026 that completely change the way you experience one of the greatest natural wonders on Earth. This is Wishspots. Let's go. You've seen the photos, but you still have no idea how massive the Grand Canyon actually is. Nobody does, until they stand at the rim themselves. Here's the scale of the Grand Canyon in 2026, 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, more than 1 mile deep. The entire country of Luxembourg could fit inside it, with room left over, and the rock layers exposed in its walls contain nearly 2 billion years of Earth's history, almost half the age of the planet itself. Down below, the Colorado River cuts through the canyon floor so far beneath the south rim, you usually can't even hear it. Just a thin silver ribbon, 4,000 feet below your feet. And yet most visitors stop here for 20 minutes, take a photo, and leave, without realizing what they're actually looking at. This isn't just a view, it's time itself, carved into stone. 2 billion years of Earth history exposed in front of your eyes, wider than an entire country, carved by water over unimaginable time, and most tourists barely scratch the surface before moving on. If this just changed the way you see the Grand Canyon, hit like. Because we're only getting started. Most people stand at the top and think they've seen it, but below the rim is a completely different world. Reason number 2, and almost nobody goes there. Every year, nearly 5 million people stand at the rim of the Grand Canyon and look down. Less than 1% actually descend into it. And what they discover below the rim is something the people at the top will never experience. The moment you step onto the Bright Angel Trail, the entire world above you disappears. You descend layer by layer through geological time itself, ancient rock formations, old ocean floors, stone that hasn't seen sunlight for millions of years, and at the very bottom sits Phantom Ranch, one of the most remote lodges in the United States, reachable only by foot, mule, or raft. In summer, temperatures on the canyon floor can climb past 110 degrees. Towering walls rise more than a mile above your head, and beside you, the Colorado River finally comes alive. Not a tiny silver line in the distance anymore, a roaring, violent river cutting through the heart of the earth. This is the hidden side of the Grand Canyon that almost nobody experiences. The people standing at the rim are seeing a postcard. The people below the rim are living inside the postcard. 2 completely different versions of the exact same place. Less than 1% of Grand Canyon visitors ever go beneath the rim. And if you're still watching this video, you're probably already thinking like the 1%. Subscribe to Wishspots, because this is exactly the kind of travel we live for. And what happens here after dark is something scientists literally travel across the world to witness. Reason number 3, and it happens every single night, for free. Most people leave the Grand Canyon before sunset, and by doing that, they completely miss one of the greatest night sky experiences on Earth. The Grand Canyon is a certified international dark sky park, one of the largest dark sky protected areas anywhere in the world. No major cities nearby, high elevation, almost zero light pollution, and when the sky is perfectly clear, the Milky Way stretches across the canyon like a solid river of light, so dense. First-time visitors often think it's a cloud. More than 2,500 stars become visible to the naked eye. The park even hosts free Grand Canyon Star Party events, where public telescopes are set up directly along the rim. And here's the part that changes everything. Some of the starlight you're seeing began its journey toward Earth before humans even existed. Think about that. Light older than civilization, arriving above the Grand Canyon in complete silence. 5 million people visit this place every year. Almost none of them stay long enough to witness it. But the people who do leave with something the daytime tourists will never understand. The stars above the canyon are ancient, and somehow, the rock beneath them is even older. If this just made you want to book a trip, drop a comment, because reason number 4 changes the Grand Canyon from a landscape into something far more difficult to explain. What if you could walk through 2 billion years of Earth's history in a single afternoon? At the Grand Canyon, that's not a metaphor, it's real. The canyon walls read like a timeline of the planet itself. From the rim to the river, each rock layer reveals a different chapter of Earth's past. At the top sits the Kaibab limestone, roughly 270 million years old, but descend all the way to the bottom, and you reach the Vishnu basement rocks, ancient stone formed nearly 1.8 billion years ago, rocks so old it represents almost half the age of the Earth itself. And between those layers lies one of the greatest geological mysteries on the planet, the Great Unconformity. A missing chapter in Earth's history representing nearly 250 million years of lost geological time, an enormous gap in the record that scientists still cannot fully explain. Think about that. The Grand Canyon doesn't just reveal the history of Earth, it reveals the parts of history we still don't understand. 1.8 billion years of time, exposed in the walls of a canyon in Arizona. At some point, the Grand Canyon stops feeling like a travel destination and starts feeling like a window into deep time itself, a place so ancient, it makes human history feel microscopic. 250 million missing years, still unexplained, and most people walk past it without ever knowing it exists. So after everything we've covered, the scale, the hidden world below the rim, the night sky, the geological history, here's the final reason the Grand Canyon changes people forever. Reason number 5, and honestly, it's the most important one. Every travel guide describes the Grand Canyon the same way: breathtaking, magnificent, awe-inspiring. But every person who has actually stood at the rim will tell you something different. Those words are completely inadequate, because the Grand Canyon does something to people that's almost impossible to explain. Psychologists sometimes refer to it as the Grand Canyon effect, a moment of cognitive overwhelm where the sheer scale becomes too massive for the brain to fully process. People stop talking, forget to take photos. Some laugh, some cry. Some just stand there in complete silence. When Theodore Roosevelt visited the canyon in 1903, he famously said, "Leave it as it is. You cannot improve on it." He was so moved by what he saw, he helped protect it as a national monument. More than a century later, the canyon still has the exact same effect on first-time visitors. Because the truth is, you cannot fully explain the Grand Canyon. You can only experience it. There are places on Earth that make you feel small in the best possible way. Places that remind you this planet existed long before you arrived and will continue long after you're gone. The Grand Canyon may be the greatest of those places, and no camera, no drone shot, no video on Earth will ever truly capture it. You can watch every documentary ever made about the Grand Canyon. Scroll through 10,000 photos online. None of it will prepare you for the moment you stand at that rim, and your brain simply stops trying to comprehend what it's seeing. That moment is yours. Go get it. 5 reasons. 1 canyon, 2 billion years of Earth's history, sitting in Arizona, waiting for you. Most people on this planet will never stand at that rim, and even most of the people who do will never go below it, never stay long enough to see the stars, never understand what the canyon walls are actually saying. But you just did all 5, and that's not just a travel checklist. That's a completely different way of seeing the world, because real travel isn't about collecting destinations. It's about understanding the soul of a place. And if that's the kind of traveler you are, subscribe to Wishspots, because that's exactly what we search for.